Hello guys, welcome to tonight's webinar. And tonight we are going to be getting into dealing with hijackers, copycats, infringement notices, and also invoice requests. So how to send invoices out to Amazon as well. I'm not sure how many we're going to have on tonight because we're coming into Christmas, but I can see a few of you here. Hello, Christian. Christian's always here. And Tilla and Greg. And this should be good. Let's see. So awesome. So can you guys hear me and see me just fine? Cool. Okay, cool. Thank you, Christian and Greg. And let's jump straight into tonight's one. I'm going to share my screen with you guys, and we'll start off with hijackers and copycats specifically, and then we can go more into infringement notices, etc. But the majority of this is just going to take you through exactly how to deal with issues that are going to come up with your listings in the future. So let's see here. You guys should see my screen in 2 seconds. And let me know if you guys see this. You should see deal with hijackers and copycats. Just let me know in the chat when that pops up on your end. Awesome. Thank you, Bernadette. So we're going to start off with these two, hijackers and copycats. There's a lot of confusion around these as well, which we'll clear up, and when you can expect these to happen. So here are some of the things you might have to deal with in terms of these two aspects. The first is hijackers actually on your listing. So they're claiming to be selling the same thing as you, and they're going to compete with you on your same listing for that buy box. Then the second is sellers actually directly copying your listing copy or images. So maybe they just copy your bullet points directly or your images. And this is also something you can attempt to get them to remove. And then sellers using any of your IP, so your intellectual property, things like trademarks, your patents, and your copyrights. So in attempting to actually remove hijackers from the listing, this is the process you want to go through. And the first thing to note with what we do and the way we build out our products, hijackers are less of an issue because you've differentiated that product. It's not very easy to go ahead and source that same exact product because they need to perhaps do the accessory, they need to do your brand name, they need to do the packaging. So the more you have differentiated, the less of a problem hijackers are going to be for you. Hijackers are most common where you sell simple generic stuff. So if we use the old coffee mug example, if you sell just a plain standard coffee mug, you're going to have much more of a problem with hijackers when you start doing well than if you did a specific niched gift coffee mug, perhaps like some type of like pirate style coffee mug with, that whole genre's design into it, and then packaging and your brand name all over that. That's something that's going to be much more difficult for them to copy and list on your listing. But in general, just to give you an idea of what a hijacker would do, the process that they would follow, they're going to research what's selling well. So this is why when sellers start doing very well with simple items, that's when they start to see a lot of hijackers and problems, because that listing is established, right? So that listing has a whole lot of reviews on it. It has a ranking for specific keywords. So the hijacker doesn't want to go build all of that up themselves on their own listing. They're rather going to source the same thing and list it on yours. So the first thing is they look for what sells well, and in part, what's ranking well, what listings can they list on. And then part of that is they're going to look at, is it easy to source? So is it easy for them to just get their hands on that, click, have one to sell on that listing and join up on your listing? If it is, if all those boxes are ticked, then they're going to source it. Then they're going to list it on your established listing by clicking have one to sell. You guys will see that on listings below the buy box on the right-hand side. That's how someone lists on your listing. Remember, until you're brand registered or brand gated, your listing is owned by Amazon, meaning anyone can list on there. The main reason for that is one of their primary objectives is low price, good deals for customers. So if someone can beat you on price, they want them to come list there. Obviously, we don't want that, so we're going to differentiate and have unique offerings. Once they do list on there, what they're going to do is compete with you to win the buy box. So when multiple sellers are on one listing, they are competing for the buy box there, your one-click checkout. In other words, who gets the sales? We're all on this listing, but who's going to get that sale when someone checks out? That's generally the individual with the buy box. Now, Amazon has multiple criteria for buy box wins, one of which is, of course, price. This is a very important one. The lower the price, the more possibility of getting the buy box. Additionally, FBA options, so products sitting in the Amazon warehouse with prime shipping, etc., those win over FBM. So those win over merchant fulfilled stock when you're shipping out from your house. And then they look at seller account health and a whole lot of other metrics. So that's how it works. It's not just price, but price being such a big determinant, that's what the hijack is going to lower on their listing, and you're probably going to reciprocate, and then it ends up in a price war. So no one makes any profit. So hijackers are not really an issue for us because we differentiate. We're at sort of advanced private label stage. Where this can be an issue is when a seller somehow gets a hold of a lot of your exact inventory. And that can be a mistake you make with a coupon. It can be them just buying a whole lot of your stock. However they get it, they can do this and basically resell on your listing. But we do have strategies for that as well. Just a side note, something I was discussing with a client a couple of weeks ago was that they were running low on inventory and they felt like someone was trying to buy their remaining stock so that the competitor who would buy the remaining stock would relist on their listing to keep that listing open at a high price so as to basically degrade their BSR over time. So that's something to keep an eye out for. Really not a common issue, very rare, but that's something to just look out for when you're starting to run low on stock. But that's separate. It's just a side note. For us, not really an issue with hijackers. So if you do have a hijacker for whatever reason, this is how you can look to remove that hijacker and the process you can follow. You're going to go to your listing and click on the button that shows you all buying options. That's going to be this button over here. You can see it says new to, that's the amount of sellers on the listing or types of the product available on the listing from $10.99. So it's always going to start at the lowest price. When you click that, it brings up all your buying options, as you can see in the second box here. You want to first of all check how much inventory the hijacker has. And now I don't know if this individual's a hijacker, it's just an example, but you would check as to how much they have. And you're going to do the 999 trick. So add it to your cart, try do 999 quantity. It's going to tell you how many are there. And if they have a very small amount, sometimes it's even 1 unit or 2 units, that could be a customer simply reselling it as a used item, in which case that's absolutely fine. So that's not really a hijacker when it's small amounts, and you can always buy them out. That's one option here. On this point, when you do have more than one seller there, whether it's because you have a used item there, even if it's like used items sold by like Amazon warehouse deals, anything like that, if you have more than one seller, someone else is on that listing other than you, that limits your ability to change your listing. So if you're ever worrying about why can't I change my title or my bullet points, one of the strategies is to look as to whether you're the only seller. Even if there's used items, I would remove those or buy them or destroy them so that's only you on the listing, and it will give you a better chance of being able to just adapt that listing yourself because there's no one else on the listing. If they have a large amount here, then you're probably dealing with a hijacker. So if they have, 100, 300 units, that's when you've probably got a bit of an issue, especially if it is the same product. So you're going to click on the name of that hijacker. So we'll just use this one as an example, Household Harmony, and we click there. And it's going to bring up there a link to where you can actually contact them. You can see you can go through to their storefront here, and you can check their policies, etc. When it brings this up, you're going to click on Ask a Question at the top right. Then you're going to input the reason for contacting them. This starts with a broader reasoning, and you could put in an order I placed, as you can see at the top. And then you're going to put in a subject line beneath that. So in this case, we could say received wrong item. You want to make it something that seller is going to check, something important to them. And then this opens a section for us to input an email, which we will send to that hijacker or that seller. And this way of contacting sellers can be used for multiple things via cease and desist letters. So you can use it for hijackers, but this is the same process you want to follow for copyright infringements, trademark infringements, patent infringements, anything like that. Use the same method, and you're simply going to want to get the adequate cease and desist letter for that infringement. So you could find, for example, a trademark cease and desist letter. So it is open for all of those. In the section that opens up for an email, we're dealing with hijackers in this example. We're going to send them email number 1. And here we got 2 options for email 1. This one is a bit more passive, and then we have a more aggressive one. The aggressive one tends to work better. The choice is yours. So in the passive example, we're just going to say, hello, I'm Dan, the director of my company and intellectual property owner of my brand. I see you've listed our branded product for sale, and you put a link to that product. Can you show me a receipt of your purchase for that item? We don't sell our branded products to resellers, and we think you're selling counterfeits. Please reply with a receipt that proves you purchased these branded products from our company, the intellectual property owner. Or you can remove your listing for this product. I'll be contacting Amazon's fraud team if you don't respond within 12 hours. So depending on your taste for this, you could do the more aggressive one. And this one is very similar, but just all in legal language, scary language. So here we say offender, that's them, representative. And I won't go through the whole thing, but it basically says it's come to our attention, you're using our brand name or our company name to sell products on whichever Amazon marketplace, and that's in violation of all the laws. Our company is the exclusive distributor of this. This serves as their legal notice to cease and desist whatever it is they're doing, and they need to comply with us. Otherwise, we're going to be contacting Amazon's here it actually says we've already reported this to Amazon's seller performance team, And if they don't respond in 24, then we're going to take further legal action. So those are both examples of number one that you send to them. They're hopefully going to receive that, open it, and then remove their listing altogether. Then you might not even get a response. That outcome is fine for us as well. In other cases, they would respond and apologize. A lot of sellers and members recently have had really good success with this. So do try it if you're ever struggling with this type of thing in any of those scenarios: hijacking, copyrights, trademark. Then email number two. So this occurs if they don't respond. If they don't respond to you in that 12 or 24 hours, whatever you put on it, you're going to say, hello, as you've ignored my earlier response request, I've contacted my Amazon rep and they're investigating this. If you purchase the product from our company, then it's secondhand and it should not be listed as new. If it was purchased from any other source other than us, then it's inauthentic and you're infringing on our IP. So please note that any further correspondence will be recorded and can be used to back up my claims. So if the second email doesn't gain a response, then what you want to do is go ahead and purchase the product that they have listed. You're going to examine that. Is it your product? Is it not your product? And if it is your product, you want to contact Amazon explaining that it's not new. Technically, in that case, they've purchased it and they're reselling it, so it's secondhand. And the customer is unaware of that. And it should be listed as used on Amazon's system by their policy. So that's the first thing. And remember, that's something that's going to help you win the buy box anyway. And customers want new items. If it's not your item, then take pictures of it. In all likelihood, if they've gone and sourced this themselves and you've differentiated at all, their item's not going to match the detail page, and you probably control the detail page. So if in any way that product does not match the detail page, whether it's the printing or the material or the dimensions, it could be anything, then it should not be listed on that listing. It doesn't match. And so it's an inauthentic product, and you're going to send that on to Amazon and back that up with pictures of that discrepancy. And then you would await a response from Amazon on this. Remember, just always keep your strategies based on Amazon's system, because if you do that, they're going to take more action for you. They're very policy driven. You guys know how algorithm driven they are. So if you stay within their policy and what they require, that's a much better way than sort of emotionally attacking it in terms of, I made the listing. The truth is they don't care. And so keep at their within their framework of how they deal with the issues. That's going to get you ahead. And one of the biggest things, I know you guys have heard this, but always position it towards a great customer experience. So, if it's not new, that is confusing consumers. That is, not totally honest with consumers. That's not good for the consumer experience. Always position it that way, and you guys should get through this relatively quickly. And that is our first one here. So let me jump back there and see what else we have. Okay. Yeah. So Bernadette asks, if the hijacker is reselling my product but has not used my product, can you explain why that would be used? Would that not be a form of arbitrage as long as the hijacker has not used it? So yes, there's that way of looking at it. But Bernadette, if this happens to you, I would err on the other side, because it's one of the strategies you can use to combat this. So yeah, that's an argument we could have, but in this situation, I would want to believe the other, because they are not, by our company, they have not been licensed to actually sell that product. So they're not licensed, they're not authorized to sell our brand of products. So just in that sense, they're unauthorized. And then secondly, they're buying and reselling what technically is a used product. It's not from the actual manufacturer. So since they don't have the licensing, that's what I would build into this, that it's actually a used product. It's not from its authentic source. Okay, guys, so let's jump into this next one here. And let me know if you guys still see this fine. This one is going to be dealing with infringement notices and our invoice request. So this is a very similar area, but how we can get more into this aspect. And just let me know you guys still see the screen fine here. And Brandon asks, if you haven't trademarked or patented your item, can you still send this type of email? Yes, 100%. So if it's your specific product, it's your IP, you actually have natural copyright from the moment you create your brand name, and you have like initial use of any brand name as soon as you make your first sale with that brand name. So in a sense, in terms of the trademark part of your question here, even if someone were to go try and register your trademark before you have, if you've started selling, you're going to have an excellent claim over them. You're going to be able to show prior use of that mark, and you will probably be able to have their application for that trademark overturned. So in a legal sense, yes, you're in the right in terms of this anyway. But of course, you could send this type of email because that's inauthentic, what they're selling. They're not authorized by you. And if they're sourcing it themselves, then it's probably not going to match your detail page. And thirdly, to your point here with the trademarks, once you are actually trademarked, that's obviously has its own legal grounds because they're impersonating your brand. Okay, and Tyler asks, how does providing an ebook work for getting Amazon to remove sellers since they cannot provide the ebook? That's a good point. I have never even thought of that, Tyler. So that's something you could go into with them as well. Yeah, that's definitely, I haven't even thought of this. This is a good point. So what do you guys think of that? I'm going to continue here, and then we can come back to that point as well and the other questions here. Okay, so dealing with our infringement notices and invoice requests, which can also be a little bit confusing. So here, what you will have to deal with is intellectual property false infringement notices. So this is things like when a seller comes out and puts an IP claim against you with Amazon because they have a patent on their product or their trademark. And so what they're saying is you are trying to impersonate them somehow. And that's what will happen through this type of false infringement notice. And very often your design may not conflict with that patent. But the issue is that Amazon kind of follows a policy of guilty until proven innocent here, rather than the reverse. And so you need to try combat this when it comes up. What they actually often suggest is that you must get that other seller to, renounce their infringement claim, which is practically impossible. So this is another issue you will have to deal with. And you're probably going to end up contacting both Amazon and the seller, but we're going to give you some strategies to use here if this does come up as well. You're also going to probably have to deal with incorrect product detail page info, false infringement notices. So it's a mouthful, but what it basically means is when someone goes to your listing and they click on that little button that says report incorrect product information, or they report in some other way to say the product doesn't match the detail page. So this is something else we would have to deal with. And then Amazon commercial invoice requests. Often this ties into the above, especially the second point here with product detail pages. But this video is also going to show you how to create a commercial invoice and how that's different to a normal PI, pro forma invoice you would get from your supplier. So IP and incorrect product detail page info infringement notices. So this occurs when you receive that email from Amazon and it claims that they've been made aware by another seller that your product somehow violates one or another requirement or patent or trademark. So it's much easier and faster to resolve any of this if you brand registered. I can't emphasize that enough. If you have brand registry and a trademark number, it's going to help you so much with all of this. I've even had situations where it was a patent infringement notice and just giving them brand registry and trademark numbers was enough. So it really does help you. Do work towards that. It may at times require an invoice, and that's what we're also going to cover a bit later here. So here are the steps you want to take when you're not brand registered, and it can be a lot harder in that case. You're going to respond to Amazon's email and explain the situation. So explain why your product does not actually infringe on that patent, etc. You're going to gain whatever it is that Amazon asks for. They may ask you for an invoice. They're going to ask you for a trademark number, a patent number. You're going to provide them with what they need as much as possible. Obviously, if you don't have the trademark number, you can't provide that yet. Or what you can do is also change the detail page in line with what they're asking about. So it might be just as simple as having a competitor's brand name on the back end, and you might have to adjust that. Number 4 is ask for proof of the other seller's IP. So some sellers will actually just create these claims without actually having the patent, or they'll claim something like patent pending, but they don't have the numbers. It's not actually registered. And so you need to ask for proof of this and put that on Amazon. So you guys just give me 1 sec here. Sorry. So with this, you guys are going to want to go into this more in terms of figuring out if they actually have that IP number. So it could be the trademark number or the patent number. So just make sure they actually have that and put that on Amazon, because currently Amazon's a little bit, the way they deal with this, I don't think is right. I think they need to give us more of an opportunity, but they are working on this. This is something that's being raised as sellers interact more and more with Seller Central and the guys up there with IP and brand registry. So for now, you're going to have to try and figure out, do they have that patent number? Is it something you can overturn? And just generally work on getting brand registered. That's going to help you a ton with this as well. And then the initial steps to take if you are brand registered. So respond to Amazon's email and explain the situation. In the email, what you want to provide them with is the fact that you're brand registered. Really, really important. That's going to like triple the speed of getting through this. Then your trademark number, very important, and your patent number if that's something you have. and then provide any additional documents that they ask for. Could be invoices. So with the invoices, this is the point we're going to get a little bit more into now. But when Amazon asks you for an invoice, it can actually be a little bit of a challenge because you won't most likely have the format that they want. So they want an invoice because they want you to prove to them that what you're listing on their platform is actually what you're manufacturing and selling. And so the only way to do that is to look at the invoice and exactly what product was manufactured there. That's the way they look at this. So it can happen as a result of two main things. Number one is someone actually filed an authenticity claim against your listing, saying, you know, this product's not authentic, it's not actually from the real manufacturer, something like that. Or two, someone claims that your listing represents incorrect product info. So basically the listing and the product doesn't match. So for this example, we're just going to use the latter, in that the product doesn't match a detail page, but the process for both those situations is exactly the same. So you can just follow this the same way if there's an authenticity claim. So here's the type of email that they send you. You can see that it just tells you these listings below don't match the detail page description. And within 7 days, please reply with invoices for these products demonstrating you have the complete branded items in the conditions as described on the detail page. So that's exactly what they're looking for. And they give you a couple links to look at their guidelines, but that's what they're asking you for here. So what you want to do, the steps you're going to take, is to generate a commercial invoice. And you can use a tool like Invoice Generator. We have a link to this, and this is also in the course now. And I believe that's just invoice-generator.com. But it cannot actually be a PI, can't be the pro forma invoice that you send to Amazon. It's going to be this one, the commercial invoice. And very often suppliers do not give you a commercial invoice. So you would have to generate this. But we will still use our PI for the details here. Such details as the dates, the costs, the supplier contact details. So everything will match up. You're just putting it into a different format. You could also add in your supplier's logo, as you can see at the top over here. This is actually a template of what the tool looks like exactly. And ensure your invoice shows that you paid on the same day as when that was issued. You're going to navigate to the From section. That's right over here. And you're going to input your supplier's information here. Remember, this invoice is from your supplier. It needs to read that way. It's from your supplier to you as a company. So in here, in the From section, you're going to put in your supplier's company name, the address, the telephone number, and email address. In the To section over here, Bill 2, you're going to put in your information as on Seller Central. So here it will be your company name, your address, your phone number, and email address. Make sure those match up as well. Then you're going to describe your product. So in this description area, you're going to speak more about your product and keep your listing in mind. Remember, there's someone has reported a type of discrepancy. And so you want to make sure whatever you put in here really relates to your product detail page, your listing. So think of like your title, things like that. Really describe the product in a similar fashion. Then in the units area or quantity area over here, put in the same number as you actually ordered. So take this from the pro forma invoice. This way it's going to match up. So the sales you've made since and the inventory you have left is going to be verifiable by Amazon. They're going to be able to see, okay, this was when this was purchased, because we can see based on sales and inventory left over. And then add in the price per unit and the totals, just the same as on your PI. And then we will explain how to cover these up. It's your choice if you cover them up. There's pros and cons. but we will go into that. Then in the notes section, so that's at the bottom here, you really want to mention aspects like price inclusive of tax is a good one, because very often your supplier did quote you like this. It was just like a DDP, like an all-in type of price. That's just going to make it easier for you to exclude the confusion and extra figures here. Unless your PI shows that, then you can just copy straight over. Next is materials used. So sometimes you very prominently advertise certain things on the listing, and you want to go into that here so that when the Amazon rep looks at your invoice versus your listing, they really match up. They can see that you're speaking heavily of stainless steel on the listing, you're speaking heavily of stainless steel on the invoice, and that's really going to match up well. And this point here just explains why. You don't know at this point what the discrepancy is. You've just been made aware that, for example, the product doesn't match a detail page, but you're not sure what exact aspect, and Amazon is never specific with that. So you can definitely try press them for more specifics, but very often they just want to see the invoice. So you need to cover your bases in terms of making that match and cover whatever it is that other seller said did not match. And that's why you want to speak about those things, like it could be the stainless steel material or some other component. Overall, just really keep in mind it's all from your supplier. So that's how it needs to read, of course. It just needs to be naturally something that came from your supplier, and read it from that perspective. And then when you're ready, just download your invoice. So at the top right of the tool, you'll see an area to download this and save it as a PDF. So if you want to cover up details, we can go over a simple process to do this with Adobe, because I think that's what most would use for PDF, but all tools will work very similarly. You'll probably have a better way of doing it, but I'll run through a quick, easy way for most users, just a quick way to do this. Before we do that, there are pros and cons to this. So some experts in the space think you shouldn't do this. One of the lawyers specifically was saying that this, a private label lawyer was saying that if you cover it up, it can prolong the process. So Amazon actually wants to see amounts here. On the flip side, a lot of sellers don't want to put the actual amount in. And the reason for that is that they feel, then Amazon knows my numbers. Like, what if they go and source this product? So there's arguments to this on both ends. I think you can cover them up if you're worried about that. I don't think it should be an issue. You can always take two swings. If you cover them up and there's an issue, you can just uncover them and go again. So if you're uncomfortable with it, do cover them up. Otherwise, it should be fine. I think Amazon overall as a company is not looking to do their own products so much. I don't think that's where they see huge, I know they do a lot, but I don't think that's one of their primary focuses. I think they're moving more towards supporting sellers, and that's why we're seeing more communication with them, the third-party sellers. In any case, that's up to you. One quick way to do this, if you're just using something like Adobe, where you can sign documents, is you can actually go to fill and sign on at the top right, and then it's going to give you a little drop down. So you want to click on place signature, and we're actually going to just use the signature box to create our scribble and cover up that amount. You can click on clear saved signature and then place signature and select draw my signature. So it basically just allows you to draw a signature, and you're going to use that to create your scribble, which you'll use to cover everything. So just draw your rectangular block and click accept, click place my signature, and that scribble will pop up and you will be able to place it in multiple locations on this invoice. Then obviously you would want to save it again. with that blocked out, and then that's ready to actually go. So overall, now we have all of that, the steps that you are going to take. First of all, you will be sending an email to Amazon, and you're going to send Amazon an email consisting of your message. So just again, give them a kind message explaining the situation. Maybe you're not infringing on, maybe you explain how your product is manufactured by you and you know the manufacturer you use, and that you created this listing, and then give them proof of that. So here's where we're also going to attach our invoice, which matches up exactly. So we're going to add that as an attachment, and then add supporting images. This is another point you can add to the message, is give pictures of your product that you have on hand. And this way it's going to match up a lot with the listing images that they can view, and they're going to be able to verify that you have the exact same product on hand. And then await for their response. So they're going to evaluate this. Often it takes them a couple days, 3 business days or so, and then they're going to get back to you on where that process is at. The other thing I would do is just continually keep that chat open. So don't let the case close, continue to respond, and that's going to help you get through this. Whatever you send them on Seller Central, I would also email their team. So we had another video covering all the contact points. You can check that out to see which department deals with IP, etc., or infringements. And that's who you want to email as well, on top of responding on Seller Central. That just gets you in front of more people, and we'll make sure that this gets dealt with as quickly as possible. And that is this one. Okay, so let me jump back there. We can get into more questions. Okay, perfect. Okay, so here we have a couple more questions. And hello, Fatima and G. Okay, cool. So here, where did we leave off? So yeah, Tyler, you asked a pretty good question on the ebook. I'm not sure if that's going to work. I'm going to have to think about this one a little bit. I've never even thought of that, but it's a good point. If you're advertising the ebook on the listing, then that ebook also needs to be sent to that customer. And so that's something you could play into your strategy for sure, because they're probably not going to have a system even to send that out. So really good point. And Best Vex says, I'm about to start selling on Amazon Germany, and I'm looking to connect with other sellers. I could use some guidance or help, even for a fee. So I'm sure it won't be you won't need a fee, Best Vex, but we do have a lot of other German sellers in the group, and those who sell on UK also sell in Germany as well. Germany is a great marketplace, good sales numbers. If you're selling in UK, also definitely list in Germany, and reach out to them on the Facebook group as well. I think we also have fewer members joining these right now because of Christmas, but as soon as we start the new year, we should be back in action. And Best Vex also asks, if I pay for Just One Dime coaching sessions, would I be doing them with you, Dan? How do I make this happen? So you can choose whoever you wish to run sessions with, any coach. Then what you would do is just get a session from the Just One Dime products on your resources page. And currently you can specify. So send an email, and this applies to everyone. I think it's a good point. You can specify. So you can send an email to help@justonedime.com and then get say, I need a session with this individual for this. And that's okay. That makes sense because some of us are more targeted at specific areas. So you can do this for sure, Best Specs. Yes. So Christian says maybe we should ask the supplier for a commercial invoice and all the details when we get the order. Yes, you can for sure. Some of them won't be able to provide this. I did try. A lot of them just do the pro forma invoices. So try, but this is a quick, easy way to generate that yourself as well. Yeah, and Bernadette says, creating an invoice based on the supplier's pro forma sounds like a gray area. Is this legal since this is a document representing the supplier's document? Just want to be careful. So yeah, it is a gray area. So it's up to you if you push forward with it. If you personally, if I need to change the format and they cannot provide me with a commercial invoice, then I'll make the call on that, whether or not to do it. There is another more legal way you can do it, but it also creates the need to generate it. And that is, if you have your own website, what you can do is create this invoice from your own company to you, if you wish. I think Seth had a video on this as well. So you can create it from yourself to you. I did try this. Honestly, I prefer this way we just covered, but that's another option for you as well. Both seem like both need the invoice to be generated. So it really to me, it really feels the same. Another thing you could do is send both. Yeah, Tyler, really good point. So Tyler says, adding the ebook just adds a whole other level that a hijacker is not going to want to deal with. 100%. And you building email list. Couldn't agree more. Okay. Yeah. So Tyler says he has someone from Etsy. Are they leaving bad reviews on your listing? Yeah, this is something they could do. If they're speaking about the product, that's going to be hard to remove. Yeah. Handmade. So something interesting on handmade items. I found out the other day I was speaking to someone who sells a lot of handmade, and that's always been an interesting space because I've always thought it would be quite cool to actually hand make items and sell them. Obviously, scale, it's something you couldn't scale so easily, but I still think it could be cool. But you have to have a unique listing for every single item because obviously, because it's handmade, they're not exactly the same. So it's very hard to build up reviews, etc., at least in the way that they were creating the items. But interesting space. Okay, guys, any other questions, or we can close up for Christmas? And I will not be seeing you guys next week on Christmas break. But I hope you guys have an awesome Christmas, awesome holiday, and that you're getting ready for the new year and to work all the way to our next Q4. And those of you already selling, I hope you're having an excellent Q4. It's in its prime right now. Any last minute questions, guys? My pleasure, Bernadette. Thank you. Awesome, Greg and Maria. All right, guys. Well, happy Christmas. Merry Christmas. Enjoy it wherever you are in the world. Spend some time with family. Take some time off. And then we'll kick off in 2 weeks' time. We'll start the new year and start working towards reaching those goals. Hope you guys have an awesome break. And I will see you in a couple of weeks. Bye, guys.